entrepreneurship is one of those things where you have to plant seeds and be open to the harvest coming back to you in any way, shape, or form. And you don't know what it's going to be, but being open to that and trusting that it will. But even if it doesn't, you are having fun in the process. You are enjoying the journey.
Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Vixen Voice. Today, my guest is Hailey Rowe. Hailey's in the Chicago area, and she is a marketing sales coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. And she serves service-based business owners, especially coaches, that's pretty cool, build out their client attraction process, get more time back, and boost sales without social media overwhelm. And I think that last part is probably the most important. So I know a lot of my clients, we kind of serve the same audience, and really that aversion to social media is a big deal, right? So Hailey, I'm excited to talk all things LinkedIn, getting clients, and your journey today. So welcome to the Vixen Voice.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, April.
I love it. And I just want to share, Hailey and I already had technical difficulties this morning, and I share that because, look, we all have obstacles. It's all about making it work, right? So we are making it work. We're here with y'all. And I always like to share a little peek into that because sometimes from your point of view, you can feel that everything goes perfectly for everyone else. And why do all these things happen to me? It happens to all of us, right? I think the other day, Facebook, Instagram, ChatGPT, and Verizon, or one of the sales companies, was down. In this technical world, you just have to be prepared to be disrupted. So welcome, Hailey. I'm so glad we were able to do this morning. So I'd love to start with just learning a little bit more about you. Obviously, I can read your official bio, but that doesn't tell us a whole lot about the woman in front of us. And, you know, it's my honor to get to have amazing guests like you on here. And it has just solidified my belief that we women doing the work and taking the journey, like we're all multifaceted, beautiful, and amazing in different ways. So I'd love to hear maybe about a pivotal moment in your journey that really helped shape this like awesome woman sitting here with us today.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I had an interest in personal development at a pretty young age. I was always an old soul. And in high school, I actually started selling fitness DVDs at like bridal expos to neighbors. And I was pretty silly, but I had an interest in wellness and personal growth. And it was kind of my gateway into entrepreneurship. And I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship, which who even knew that there was a degree in that? But I loved it. And I ended up getting to like take classes with like the founder of Kinko's and all these different companies. And after college, I ended up working in business development and marketing for startups. And I loved it because it was a small team and you had so much autonomy. Like it was almost a little scary because I was a fresh college grad and here I was like writing the copy for their website and, you know, writing the manual for the employees and like recruiting employees. Like it was kind of crazy. And I was really working a lot. And so I know the whole, you know, startup grind that a lot of entrepreneurs go through. And was just told, oh yeah, you're doing so well, you might even get promoted. But then in one day, the entire team was let go because the company was facing certain delays that they did not expect to come and they weren't able to open. And so at that point, I had to decide what I wanted to do. And I could have gotten another job in the startup world. And I actually did have some side jobs along the way, building my business, working as a subcontractor for startups. But I decided at that point to go off on my own and work individually with the world I knew best, which was wellness professionals, coaches, people in that realm, because I had worked at a variety of different companies that, like, one was a coaching certification company, one, was a little bit of everything. And that was just kind of my world and my network. And I started to coach individuals who were service providers, coaches, had a passion of some kind on how to get started with their business, how to learn sales and marketing, how to promote themselves. And I think that I think everybody faces this point where they become an entrepreneur and they don't realize, like, maybe you have a passion for something or a craft, and that's usually what starts your business. But then you don't realize you have to really learn entrepreneurship and become an entrepreneur. So
Yes.
I love helping individuals really step up their game in that department so that they can do their passion or do their thing that they love. So I've been doing it ever since 2017 and started my Health Coach Nation podcast at that point as well, which is business tips for coaches, and been doing it ever since.
I love it so much. And what you said is so true. In building my first business, I was a financial planner. And of course, you get trained to do that. But then I was blessed because I had a strategic partner who was like, hey, I'm going to get you a business coach. And she came in and she was like, you have to run your business like a business. Let me teach you how to be a business owner, right? And I mean, I was so grateful because that was 4 years into a 15-year journey. And, that really helped me build a true business to like multiple seven figures that without that training, I would have been a darn good financial planner, but I wouldn't have had a true business, right? So I totally agree with you. And the thing I'd add, and I think you probably are a proponent of as well with the history you just shared, is entrepreneurship is also the greatest track to self growth that like speeds it up. Like the roller coaster is real. Like the more solidified you are as a human being, I think the better you are as an entrepreneur, a business owner, leader, and boss. So I like to kind of put the two together.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Love it. Love it. So let's talk a little about LinkedIn. I got to tell you, I'm super excited that you focus on LinkedIn, especially with the niche that you serve, because I feel it is a little bit ignored. Like everybody's hanging out on Instagram, right? Which I love Instagram too. And our focus is Instagram and LinkedIn, and of course, YouTube for the podcast. But I just was told stats by a coach of mine, like, she was like, why aren't you doing more on LinkedIn? Because that's like where your target audience is hanging out, number one. And then someone else told me that, and I'm saying this so you can correct anything I'm misspeaking or talk to your understanding. Only 2% of people in LinkedIn post, and there was some other crazy stat. Oh, and they're pushing video now, and most people aren't doing video. So it's kind of like the new blue ocean where you can show up with your reels and no one else is doing it. Like that's kind of what I heard. Oh, and by the way, my target audience is there. So I'd love your feedback on it and why you chose to focus on LinkedIn.
Yes. So LinkedIn, I mean, don't get me wrong, I help clients with other platforms too,
Yeah.
but LinkedIn is what I call a low maintenance platform, in my opinion, meaning it's great for those of you who don't want to dance in Instagram reels and don't want to have to like heavily edit your videos and use all the hashtags and all the things. So LinkedIn is a networking platform, which is amazing for business owners because as business owners, we're always trying to connect with either potential partners, referral partners, people who we could do online, podcasts with, things like
Mm-hmm.
that, or potential clients, which if you have a potential client target audience that is a certain type of professional or in a certain location area, or maybe even went to a certain school or things like that, you can actually target that kind of stuff on LinkedIn pretty easily. So it's a great platform for both partnerships or if you have a certain type of professional you work with, finding your ideal clients. It's also great because it is more of like a direct platform, like Instagram and Facebook. People go on there a lot of times just for entertainment
Mm-hmm.
or scroll mindlessly. Versus LinkedIn, you're on there to connect, send connection,
Mm-hmm.
and have conversations with people. So it's a more efficient, in my opinion, way to build connections and network than the other platforms. And then the other thing is you don't have to post all the time to be
Mm-hmm.
successful. In my opinion, it's more about the connection requests and how you are communicating in the messages and not being one of those people who just sends like a really long sales pitch as the first message, but is actually building relationships, being interested in your audience, seeing if they're open to collaboration, things like that. So, in my opinion, it's more about that than it is like posting all the time and that kind of thing. So, that's just what I've seen with it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, there are stats I don't know off the top of my head, but a lot of B2B business owners, they get the best leads and the best ROI on their time with LinkedIn. And I've definitely seen that myself. It has become my main platform that I can count on, that I book the most calls from, that kind of thing. And you never know what's going to happen. I actually had a client who, in 90 days, she got both
Mm-hmm.
high sales because she was an executive coach, and she got a part time job coaching at a company that was like a really sweet deal that she didn't even see
Yeah.
coming. It's like one of those places where it's not just, I think a lot of people think LinkedIn is just about I got to go put my resume up and it's about getting a corporate job and I don't want that because I'm an entrepreneur. But the truth is, you can get clients from LinkedIn, you can get great opportunities from LinkedIn.
Also, one thing I learned is event planners search LinkedIn for speakers.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, if you are a speaker, make sure it's in your headline so they can find you easily, right? Yeah, it was so funny. I was told that, and then I just added keynote speaker to my headline, and within a week, someone reached out about like it was crazy. It was like almost immediately just by that one little tweak, right? So that's why it's so great, I think, working with a coach like you who points out what they don't know or how they can best use their time. And it's so funny because the other day somebody was telling me, oh, I was doing a social media shoot, and they're like, I was like, oh, can I say this? And they're like, why would you say you have a coach? You're a coach. And I'm like, all coaches have coaches. Like the best in the world have coaches. Like we want to be real. Like I have multiple coaches because in today's world, things are so nuanced that it's impossible to be an expert at every area. And I'm sure I'd love to hear from you on that because I'm sure that's why you speak to social media overwhelm because I know my
Mm-hmm.
social media strategist, who is also a coaching client of mine, I know this because of that, how many people on her team and how niche they are on each thing they do, right? So if you're a business owner trying to become good at all of that, plus get clients, plus deliver service to your clients, plus run the company, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that there's no shame in having support. If you take on that you're supposed to do all the platforms and do them all out and be perfect, you are probably going to have a lot of start and stops or inconsistency
Mm-hmm.
because you're just almost setting yourself up for failure before you even start. So my whole thing with clients is always like pick a minimum baseline you can stick with to post on one or two platforms and start there and don't make it
Yeah.
perfect. It be, it has to be a reel because reels do best on Instagram. No, just like start and then we can refine once you're getting consistent with that and keep improving from there.
Yeah, I love it. And, another thing that shocked me, I was at a mastermind and someone was speaking that was very knowledgeable about the creator world, like the influencer world. And apparently, a lot of the huge influencers, like suicide was rampant for a while because it really is a mental health issue, like trying to keep up with all that, constantly creating new content, like dealing with things. So, and I know that sounds crazy, but I just share it to say, like, if you feel overwhelmed, it's real and honor it. And, like, seek a coach that can help you, hire someone that can do it for you, and, like, just honor that you're feeling stressed.
Yeah. Well, and I think overwhelm comes from our thoughts poor planning or mismanaged expectations. And
Yes.
I think a lot of people, like, social media is neutral, but we use it against ourselves. We use it to compare ourselves to others. We use it to find all the reasons why
Mm-hmm.
we're not enough. We use it to say, oh, I didn't do my post today, so I'm a loser. I gotta get better at that. And we beat ourselves up. Versus if you just saw social media as a business tool and you train yourself to go on for business purposes,
Yep.
parameters and boundaries around, going scroll free, I call it. I literally have done challenges with myself where it's like I go scroll free for 30 days and just go on for business. So I think things like that can maybe help you, but also noticing your thoughts about social media, because
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing to, I mean, I believe we should pick a marketing platform that we don't dread to begin with and with, but at the same time, if you hate all social media and you're feeling a ton of resistance against it, we may have to look at that too before you get started marketing on it, because the energy behind what you're doing is probably going to be a little rough, and you're probably not going to stick with it. So I do think we need to evaluate what, like, everybody here, if you're listening to this podcast, do a thought download, like write down all of your thoughts about social media and look at which ones you think are holding you back the most, and then try to poke some holes in it. Try to be like, and why is this not fully true? And
Mm-hmm.
possible that I could, shift my view on this, and what else might be true. Like, just try to poke a little holes in it, because I think a lot of people with LinkedIn too feel resistant, like, oh, it's just if I want to get a job, or it's just,
Yeah.
blah. So try to go through that exercise before deciding, and it'll make your social media journey probably easier.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's great tips. And one other thing I learned about social media, because I'm a certified high performance coach, and this came up in our training we do, is you're actually, when you're scrolling, you're making like hundreds or thousands of micro decisions, like, do I like, don't I like, do I comment, don't I? And we have limited capacity for decision making, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're making decisions all day long, so decision fatigue is real. It's why you see people like Mark Zuckerberg wear the same thing every day. Like, he doesn't want to decide what to wear in the morning. He just has gray t-shirts and jeans, so he grabs the next one, right?
Yeah.
So, I love this idea of limiting, because we've all learned engagement is important. Otherwise, you're not really on social media if you're just posting. But, the companies that specialize in engagement, they only do it X number of minutes a day, or for 30 minutes a day, or an hour a day. It doesn't have to be an all day long thing. So I love that. Awesome. So, one other thing I loved was you were sharing with me to use LinkedIn not just to get clients, but to have profitable partnerships. So, share with us a little bit more your philosophy on that.
Yeah. So there are two different angles you can use with LinkedIn lead generation, as we talked about. And one is connecting with your potential partner or potential partners. So what I want you to think about is what kind of businesses complement what you do, and
Mm-hmm.
be good for you to either take a guest training and present it to their audience, and vice versa, do a podcast swap with, do an Instagram live swap with, do, maybe you guys speak or write each other a guest newsletter for each other's email list or something like that. There's a million different ways you can collaborate in business. And so what you're going to want to do is think about who are those businesses that complement. So if you are a functional medicine practitioner, which a lot of my clients are,
Mm-hmm.
they partner with an acupuncturist locally, or maybe even a med spa owner if they're going to do like a self-care workshop night or something like that. So it can be local partners too. Like, you can start in your area if you wanted to do partnerships with people in your
Mm-hmm.
town. And that has a little bit of a warmer connection to begin with, which is always helpful on LinkedIn. Try to find something you have in common with someone when you're reaching out. Like, hey, we're both in
Mm-hmm.
this area, or we both went to XYZ school, or whatever. But then on the other side of that, there's also podcast hosts you can search on LinkedIn, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very so my philosophy, and obviously the second angle you could take with LinkedIn lead gen is connecting with your potential clients. but that would have a different approach. If you're choosing to connect with partners, what you want to do is send your connection request, which is the equivalent of like a friend request on Facebook. They have the same thing on LinkedIn. And you just want to first have a connection message that is very simple, very much just like why you're connecting. Hey, we're both in this such and such area. We're both business owners. Thought it'd be great to connect. And then you want to see, would they be open to exploring collaboration? And the way you phrase that can be different for everyone. You can personalize it however you want to do it. But the point is, people expect that kind of outreach on LinkedIn, and it's not salesy. You're not, saying to be on my podcast. You're asking a question, an open-ended question. That's the key.
Right.
When they accept your connection request, should be an open-ended question. And from there, I've had that happen in 2 steps. Like I had somebody reach out to me and say, hey, we have some mutual connections. It'd be great to connect and see what we can do together. And I looked at his profile. I saw he had a podcast. I have a podcast. I said, let's podcast together. And in 3 steps, it was done. We planned it. It was it. It was efficient. So that's my philosophy, is that I think it's a more direct platform. And once you connect with people, keep in mind, they are in your network now. So they're going to see your posts. And sometimes, if you have an announcement or an exciting update, they're going to see it now. So even if they're not ready to collaborate with you right this second, they're going to keep seeing your posts and updates.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm a huge fan of collaboration and I love the concept of a borrowed audience, right? Getting in front of someone else's audience. And so lately I've done a couple of summits, like I had speaking engagements, I do X number of podcast guesting. And then I had a call, like a discovery call with a potential client. She's like, suddenly you're popping up everywhere. And it was really just because I'm on other people's things, right? We had not increased what we were doing on our end in my specific business, but suddenly you start cross promoting each other and it's of huge value both ways. I mean, I really did it because I was like, oh, I want to be involved in more summits and have more speaking engagements, etc., because I love that. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Because I think there's also power in showing up on someone else's page versus always your page where they assume you're selling to them. Would you agree with that?
I would, yes. And there is a great opportunity to cross promote and have referral partners or affiliate partnerships. And I think that it also builds faster trust. Like if I am here talking to April, it indicates she, vetted me or, doesn't pick everybody for the. So it's just when you're introduced to someone else's audience by their leader, it's effective than if you're just, doing other talks to a completely cold audience and not endorsed by someone.
Well, and it's also fun and very fulfilling because usually the person running the event is someone you vibe with, someone you really like and admire. And so like you also get this new friendship / partnership. That's beautiful and amazing. The summit I was just in, I really loved what she did. She had a pre-speakers Zoom because there were 11 of us. And I mean, one lady there, she was like, hey, can I be on your podcast? I'm like, sure. Can I be on yours? And like, we've had a networking call and we were on the summit together. Like, I mean, I literally met her 2 weeks ago and I feel like she's a very good friend of mine already. It's like, it's crazy how fast you bond because I respect what she does and she respects what I do. And we like each other personally. But and when you're talking about DMing too, and I'd be curious what you advise your clients because you don't always know. I'm very intuitive. So one of my clients asked me, she was like, you're really good at like keeping up conversations via DM. Like, in fact, that's how she became a client, right? It was over a year. And she goes, can you share with me your secret? Because it scares me. I go, yeah, it's real simple. I only DM people that I'm attracted to. Like, I'm like, would I be a friend with this person? Yes. Like, I'm not just randomly DMing people going like, cool. Let's just see how many people we can write. But you get a feeling for people and their content and what they're saying and what they're doing. And just like when you're attracted to friends in real life, or if you're dating and you're attracted to someone, like you can be attracted to someone via social media. So I always recommend to my clients, like, start there and just be a human being. You're just having a conversation. So I love your tips and how you break it down. Find something of rapport, so the connection, they're not like, who the heck is this person? And then have it open-ended, because you don't even know what they have to offer you. I want to share one more thing and then I'll kick it back to you. I find it so funny because I remember when Facebook first came out, and I was living in Italy at the time because my ex-husband's Italian. So for me, it was a great way to stay in touch, with my friends. And then when I moved back to the US, my friends in Italy. Remember, you would just accept, I know you're much younger than me, but you would just accept any friend request that came your way. Right? You'd be like, cool, yeah. And now we're so cynical, I think, because, we started getting sold to on social media. So it's kind of crazy that we even have to talk about how to get someone to accept your friend request. Because why wouldn't you just say, like, hey, you're cool, you look cool, I want to connect? Like,
Right. Well, I'll tell you a couple of things. So first of all, a lot of people just get turned off by DMing in general because they've had a bad experience with it. They've had somebody who sent them a really long, pitchy message. And as entrepreneurs, we are targets. We are like getting bombarded with what we call pitch slaps, like everybody saying, hey, buy my stuff. And that's the wrong way to do it, right? Because in marketing and whatever platform you're on, I say there's something called 4 steps of client attraction. There's connecting, engaging, pre-offer, which is usually like your freebie or, a free event or, something of value up front. And then the sales phase. That's an invitation to the sales phase too. It's not just, hey, buy my stuff now. But what happens with DMs is people skip to step 4 and it turns us off, and then it makes us, well, if I'm doing DMs, I'll probably have to be like that person, and I don't want to be like that person. But you don't have to be like that person. So the first thing to know is you have to, step 1 is like clear your energy and your feelings behind it. Like you want to be curious. Curiosity is the feeling you want to lead with. Interest is the feeling you want to lead with. Generosity is the feeling you want to lead with. Or the question I always come back to when I'm DMing is, how can I be useful to this person? How can I be for them? How can I share value for them? And in order to do that, we have to ask open-ended questions, because we can't assume, if we're a weight loss coach, someone wants to lose weight. That's not going to go well, right?
no.
To ask, what kind of, hey, we're new connections here on LinkedIn. Thank you for being a part of my community. What kind of content would be really useful for you when it comes to the topics of XYZ? And see what they say. Because once we see what they say, then I think people ask, or people think it feels so unnatural. Well, it feels unnatural because you haven't found out like something to talk about or give value. And so it will feel out of place or rushed if you don't know what they actually want or need or what they find useful. So we have to find that out in some way, shape, or form with an open-ended question. And once you do, then you can invite to your freebie, or you can share a post that you did about that topic and see how it goes for them, or share a connection that would help them, or a resource you use to help you and that them too, or whatever. So I think that's a big thing. And I also think the skill of emotional intelligence is really important, and it needs to be developed by entrepreneurs. And the way that you do that is you experiment with different questions. You look at what gets the best response rate. And you also just go back to what you found, like whatever for you works as your foundational questions. Like for me, it's how can I be useful? How can I be resourceful? How can I be? And that always answers my question of like, whenever I'm unsure of what to say, if I just lead with my values and curiosity, it usually serves me well.
That's so funny because I couldn't have articulated it that well, but I have one. I always think, how can I bring value in this situation? So when I'm podcasting on a stage, one to one, like, how can I bring value? Yeah, I love that so much. And I just wanted to share on the flip side of asking the open ended question to them of what would serve them, have a list prepared for how other people can serve you. I just learned this in the summit the other day. I mean, I generally have what I'm focused on because I'm very organized in my goals. But she suggested, like, when people are like, hey, how can I serve you or bring value to you? Like, have a list of things you ask them for, right? Like, be prepared because it's different for different people. And how many times are you asked that and you're like, oh, let me think about it, or you feel badly asking for something? Like, they're not asking for their health. They actually want to help you, and it's an opportunity. So why not have a way they can bring value and then, send the question back to them? Okay, awesome. Thanks for asking. Now, how can I bring value to you? Right? But be
Right.
prepared in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Awesome. I love it. So I love that you laid out your 4 steps to client acquisition. And I know you have a great freebie for our listeners that are 4 steps to client acquisition without social media overwhelm. So if you're listening, that will be in the show notes. And a quick reminder, if you want to easily get these tools and stay in touch with all of our amazing guests, all you do is go to vixengathering.com/podcast and hit subscribe. And guess what? They get delivered to your inbox every Tuesday and Thursday. So that's the easiest way to get this. But Hailey's freebie will be in the notes. And Hailey, real quickly, again, we'll share all your info, but what's the easiest way for our listeners to stay in touch with you if they're like, wow, I want to hear more?
Yeah, well, thank you again. I'm on all the platforms. So if you do want to connect on LinkedIn, I'm Hailey Rowe there. I'm on Instagram at _Rowe. I have my free networking and marketing community, The Marketing Hub, on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. And the Health Coach Nation podcast, we do episodes every Friday. And that freebie you shared is 4 steps of client attraction without social media overwhelm. So it's going to take you deeper into those 4 steps on and how to apply them, what to actually say, and give examples of real DM conversations that were not spammy, that were not received poorly, and actually converted to opportunities, email leads, things like that. And that's at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction.
I love it. That's super valuable. And, reminder, like, you can just take Hailey's suggested DMs and run with it, like she said, and then you can test. If you're like, I wouldn't say it this way, I'd say it this way. Great. Put it in your voice and go with it, right? I think sometimes people take swipe files too seriously. It's like,
Yeah.
if it says, hey, girlfriend, and you never say girlfriend in your life, do not send a DM that says, hey, girlfriend, right?
Amen.
I mean, because then they're going to meet you and be like, wait, where'd my girlfriend go? Like, that's not how you are at all. So, you want to be consistent. But hey, I'm a huge fan of, if there's a wheel that works, let's roll it and then get a feel for how you would tweak it. Like, you don't have to tweak out the gate. You can just like test a couple and then just say, oh, this doesn't feel great. Let me tweak this word or say it this way, right? But I love that you give them a jumping off ground, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially coaches, don't take the first step because they don't even know what it looks like. They can't imagine it.
Yeah, totally. I think, yeah, exactly. A lot of people say, I don't know where to start, and yet they have this gigantic to-do list and they just haven't prioritized it, or they haven't, they second guess, oh, well, this probably isn't the first one. So then they don't end up doing anything. And I think we have to stop and ask yourself, what's the next logical step? Can I just insert 5-minute thing you can start with? But yeah, I think overwhelm's a huge problem in the entrepreneur world.
I would agree. And I like to call myself a time nerd. I'm all about architecting a good calendar. And I know you're really into time as well. So I'm going to ask, what is like your favorite time hacking tip that you love to share?
Whew. Okay, so I would say I went 2 things. One, I use Toggle, Toggl. It's an app that you can time yourself for everything. So I keep a log every week, almost like I know we're our own bosses as
Yep.
entrepreneurs, but it's almost like I'm at a job and they ask me to time log what I'm doing, and I review it at the end
Yes.
with myself, and I'm like, what? Okay, what's the best use of my time? I spent way too much time on content this week. What's that about? How do I improve that? And so it's just been a really useful tool. And it also prevents me from getting distracted because I'm really type A. And if my timer's going for a certain task and I'm jumping to something else, I have to be like, no, because then I have to stop the timer and switch it and do the other thing. So that's one tip. But the other tip I'll share is each day I have a categorized, list of like my top
Mm-hmm.
priority things for the week, my later list of ideas that I park ideas because I have a million of them a day and I can't do them all right now. I have a, soon list that's like maybe not this week, but this month or whatever. But each day I sit down and I look at that list
Mm-hmm.
and I make what I call a wish list for the day and then an actual list for the day. So
Mm-hmm.
I time block my appointments for the day and I make my wish list and I have it right next to my time blocked day. And then I look at the wish list and say, which of these things are top priority and where do they fit within my open time
Yes.
blocks? And I batch it in, I would block it in. And it served me really well because then I don't start each day thinking I can do my whole wish list and beating myself up when I don't. I actually am able to know what really is realistically is going to happen and have to prioritize that way too. So I think learning how long things take you or deciding how long things are going to take you is
Mm-hmm.
real. And you actually get this blew my mind. You get to decide how long you're going to give a task. You get to
Yeah.
decide if your email, if you write it in 20 minutes and you think it's not good enough, but you give yourself that challenge to finish it within 20 minutes and you start making yourself, meet the promises you make to yourself and just send it out, you're going to get better at doing it in 20 minutes.
Yes. No, I love all those tips. I love this idea of toggle because I'm a huge fan of time auditing. That's a important thing because sometimes it slips away and you don't know where it went. But totally love it. Fantastic tips. Thank you so much. And then I'll pull a couple more things out of you and then I'd like to go back to Hailey, the woman and entrepreneur. But you also love to talk about 7 sales page mistakes. And I think there are some simple, easy copy mistakes that people make all the time. So do you mind sharing like a few of those with us?
Yeah, I'll share a few of the top ones.
Okay.
So one of them is using, okay, so a lot of people will say on their sales page, me language, I language, or people, everyone language, where we want on your sales page to actually connect with the one target audience
Mm-hmm.
member and use you language. So are you struggling with blah, 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 blah? You are having blah blah blah. Let make it less about yourself as the business owner and I think it is important to share your expertise and things like that and maybe your story, but you really want all the copy to be about the person reading it and the day-to-day little mindset excuses they have, the challenges they're facing, the tangible wins that they want, things like that. So that's one thing is use you language instead of talking about yourself too much and or talking about people as a whole. The other thing is making sure that you're using your headlines wisely. I can't tell you how many times I see people have their headlines say like about me versus they could turn that about me headline into, you know, from insert your rock bottom that you're going to share in your story
Mm-hmm.
to or how I went from blank to blank. And then we still know it's an about you section, but you're at least most people will just read the headlines. So you want to make them want to read more. And that's one additional rule is every line of copy, every sentence on your page, you want it to make them want to read the next one. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're putting a lot of extra fluff in there or details in your story that people don't really need to know, you want to get those out of there. So use your headlines wisely. And then the other thing is you want to have a call to action button above the fold. So what that means is
Yep.
before someone has to scroll down, right away you want a button that's clear about what are they supposed to do on this page. What's your goal of this page? Do you want them to book a call with you? Do you want them to click the button to sign up for your membership? Do you want them to sign up for your email freebie? Whatever it is, make sure it's really obvious at the top of the page. And then the other thing is, a lot of times we use whatever our field is. We use like I call it in coaching, I call it like coach speak. But in any field, there's kind of like your own jargon that's within the field, and you're in a little bubble and you think everybody knows what it is. And usually they don't. So if you are, example, in coaching, sometimes people can say like, we're going to help you, like they use these vague terms like find your full potential. And what does that mean to your ideal client? Does your ideal client come to you on a discovery call and say, I need to find my full potential, that's why I'm here? No, they usually are saying, I am really struggling with my job and I hate it. And I know there's something bigger out there for me as a job, and I need to find out this, and I need to get a better job. Okay, well then that's much more, we need to speak that language on your sales page. So just make sure you're not using vague terms or things that only people in your industry would understand, that kind of thing.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. I was getting nerdy about that because we're working on a lot of copy now. I've been working with my coach on that. So I love it. Awesome. Hailey, thank you so much for everything today. Before we go, at the Vixen Gathering and on the Vixen Voice, my driving purpose, I know I'm a business coaching consultant, but what I'm really here to do is help women step back into their feminine essence and find more joy, peace, and love in their lives. And miraculously, they suddenly make more money, right? So that's where the business part comes in. So I'd love to ask you, when do you feel your feminine essence really shining through, or that you've stepped into that energy, right?
Yeah. So music is a big thing for me. I used to sing in a band full time, like every weekend. But when I am listening to music or singing or performing, it's one of those things where I am more going with the flow than other times in my life. And, I would say that honestly, a lot of the things I do, like I love working out. I love personal development and sales, and like I'm a little bit in the masculine energy a lot of the time, but I don't make that a problem. I don't make that like, oh, there's something wrong with me or whatever. I have my definition of balance and how I feel like balance my feminine and masculine. And I would say at home, like with my boyfriend or other things like that, in my personal life, I'm very much feminine. Like, don't make, like, I want them to plan the things. I just,
yes.
Versus because in my business all day, I'm like, executing, planning, being, in the masculine. So, but I think a lot of people make it mean something that it doesn't need to mean. And that's my on it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And what color is your feminine energy?
Ooh, I'm going to say purple.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Hailey, it's been such a great talk. Like, it was awesome to hear your story, to get to know you, and you shared amazing, actionable tips with us. So, if you're listening, go re listen to this episode, hit pause, write those tips down, check Hailey out, and go make magic happen. So, as everyone knows, if you listen often, I am all about love. I feel the world needs more love. And so, my message is, how can you go out and spread the love today? We were talking about social media, so maybe next time you're sending a DM, think, how could I insert a little more love into this message, right? And you might be amazed at the results you see. So, Hailey, what would your final message be for our audience?
Yeah, well, I think the final message for me would be open up to willingness to get outside your comfort zone. As April said, to spread a little more love without attachment or needing it to come back to you in any way.
Yes.
And I think your business transform when you just open up to that versus being in what we call like, I need it, like transactional energy. Like, I need it to come back to me in this way or it's not worth it. Entrepreneurship is one of those things where you have to plant seeds and be open to the harvest coming back to you in any way, shape, or form. And you don't know what it's going to be, but being open to that and trusting that it will. But even if it doesn't, you are having fun in the process. You are enjoying the journey. You are growing. And that's the most important part.
I love it. Thank you so much. And for everyone out there listening, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.